Okay, Jovian archive and money. Let's see, 47, 247 times 2, 19. Okay. All right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 50. I'm disappointed. Money. Everybody wants it. Nobody seems to have enough of it, and everybody wants to find out how they can obtain it in easy ways. Hey, what's up? I'm Desiree, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about money and human design and what it says and where you can find it in your chart. Please note that the information in this video is coming from the Money Game and the Money course in human design. So there's a lot of information and material that I cannot really condense down into just like one YouTube video. But what you're going to get in this video is going to be a very great, solid foundation for you as you continue on this path on finding money and ways that is tailored to you. So without further ado, let's get over the first foundational thing that I want you to understand when we're talking about money and we're talking about human design, and that is seeking money is not self.
You make money out of the not self. You make money through the not self. Your differentiated imprint doesn't know how to make money, doesn't need to know how to make money, isn't interested in making money.
Now, this may come off as a little bit of a surprise if you're kind of thinking, well, Desiree, isn't human design this knowledge base of information to help people experiment with in order for them to not live a not self life, but live a more authentic life? So that way the quality of their life is more authentic. And my answer to that would be yes. But we also have to recognize that we live in a world where we need to have money in order to survive. So in order to survive and to have food and shelter and all these other things, we need to have money. And money is a man-made system. It's not necessarily something that's inherent within our mammalian design. So when we're talking about money, we are talking about wanting it as this kind of conditioning or something that we're subjective to just because of the program that we live in. So even though we are seeking money and we need it to survive, it's not necessarily something that we are inherently designed to want to pursue. So even though the pursuit of money is a not self thing, there are authentic ways, or there are ways that you can kind of combat or integrate this not self and authentic self into gaining money or gaining material wealth. And that is related to the second point that I want to make here, and that is signature.
It's the signature that makes the difference in your life. Nothing else. Nothing else. You look at type and everything that comes out of type and what it's pointing at, the signature at the other end, this is the thing. Because if you live it, you really have a life. You have a good life. You have a true life. You have something that's real.
What human design has to say about this signature is that you have to be living an authentic way or authentic life and not living your not self theme in order to actually resonate or to get the information to guide you into what areas to pursue money in. So what do I mean by this? I mean that regardless of how much money you're actually making, okay, if you are pursuing money in a not self way, then it's not going to be long before you're met with your not self theme of disappointment, bitterness, anger, and frustration. Now, just a little caveat here, there is this upcoming mutation in 2027 to where some of these operating principles may not necessarily be as strong, and maybe in the future I will release a video about that. But right now, I'm just going to talk about what human design says about money and how it pertains to you. So now let's get into the real core on how to make money in human design. The whole core of making money in human design is directly related to this trial and error process.
Now look, the first time you make the mistake, when you're old enough to understand that somebody thinks you fucked up and they point a finger at you, it's usually a parent. They're standing very high up, and they're pointing way down. and they say, you got that wrong. You know, that's the beginning of the end of your future in money.
So when we're talking about trial and error in human design, we are essentially talking about the third line, because the third line in human design is all about the martyr, and it is about this trial and error process. And the third line is the most materialistic out of all the 6 lines. As you're in this trial and error process, some things may come up, some other people might get in the way, and it really can create some daunting or some negative experiences that can prevent a person from actually wanting to continue through this process. But this is the process that's going to ultimately lead you to the material wealth. Because if we kind of stop and we don't continue with the trial and error process, we're never really going to meet that end goal of our money goals or our monetary gain. So as we're in a trial and error process, it's not going to be long before we realize that the outcome is not necessarily what we expected, even though we did a lot of preparation. Now, what this can do is this can lead to internalization of that there's something wrong with you. You might be receiving criticism from somebody else that's kind of looking at and pointing out all of your errors. And after a certain amount of time, this can develop into a fear. Fear can really keep a person at a standstill, because if we look back like in our mind and our experience, we'll say, well, you know, I'm afraid to go into this process because it didn't work out before. What's going to make this process any kind of different? Or we might be fearful because the people around us aren't necessarily supporting us in healthy ways. We're afraid of criticism. You know, we're afraid of looking like idiots. We're afraid of embarrassing ourselves. So this is a lot of where the conditioning comes in this whole trial and error process that you would have to overcome in order to reach your monetary goals or to reach your materialistic goals. And if you follow any stories of like mega wealthy billionaires and millionaires, all of their stories have this trial and error process, this overarching theme of going through a process, finding out what didn't work, and then re-entering into the process until eventually they found out what did work for them. And this is exactly what human design is pointing you to and saying about this whole trial and error process. So in short, you're going to have to go through this trial and error process to discover what doesn't work, one more time for the people in the back, to discover what doesn't work in order for you to discover what actually works. Now let's get into the portion of this video that I know most of you are looking forward to, and that is, where do you find the money opportunities in your chart? So the first thing you want to look for in your chart are open centers. And if you are a fellow reflector, you should have a big smile on your face, because yes, you do have the opportunity to make a tremendous amount of wealth. However, there is a small caveat to that. The whole reason why human design says that open centers bring in the most money is because it's the open centers that are operating most likely from the not self. Now, there are 2 centers that have the opportunity for you to bring in the most wealth, and that is the head center and the heart center. So why the head center and why the heart center? Well, first of all, these are the 2 centers that have less gates. So because they have less gates connected to these centers, that means that a majority of the people have these centers undefined. And whenever you have an undefined center within your chart, naturally it is seeking for something outward to condition it, because it doesn't have that consistent, source of energy or that consistent flow. So how do you actually make money from these 2 centers? Well, it's easy. You sell inspiration, you sell motivation, or you sell teaching. Now, I am guilty of this myself, inspired human design, which is kind of like the hub of what all of my human design work is under. And I'm guilty of this myself. So now what are you supposed to do if you're watching this and you're like, Desiree, my head center is defined and my heart center is defined. What am I going to do? Don't worry. This does not mean that you're going to have success in business, or you're not going to have success in money or success in wealth. There are other areas that you can look for in your chart that can help you align to this trial and error process. Now, before I share this with you, this is not a guarantee that this is going to lead you toward money, but it's going to show you exactly what this trial and error process entails that can then lead you to experimenting with some of your pursuits in material wealth. So other areas that you want to look for in your chart to see where this trial and error process is specifically for you is you want to look for any third lines. Now, this can be in your profile, this can be in your gate designs, this can be in your personality gates as well. And from me, my own personal experience, this can also be in your motivation as well. So as you're looking for these third lines in your chart, there's one thing I want you to keep in mind, and I want you to see where these third lines are, if they're on the personality side and if they're on the design side. Now, if you notice that you have third lines on your personality side, remember, this is something that's going to be conscious to you. So this is where you're going to probably notice a lot of conditioning placed upon you because you're consciously aware of it. So this is the areas where you may need to do a little bit of deconditioning work or feel as if you have to push a little bit harder to continue in this trial and error process in order to get the results that you're looking for. So as you are looking in your chart and you're looking at your design side, I just want you to be mindful that this is something that you're going to naturally be presented with in life. Like, this is a trial and error process that you will have to go through in order to learn something of value or to figure out what doesn't work for you. Like, this is just a natural process that's going to happen. And the more you surrender to that, the less mental anguish you're going to place on yourself. And I know this trial and error process isn't very enjoyable sometimes, having to deal with the fear and the uncertainty and the insecurity and then criticisms from people doing a lot less than you. So this is why I highly suggest that you check out my previous video where I give you 5 foundational truths on how to balance this material pursuit path as well as your own spiritual path. And be sure to check out DesireeClemons.com, where I have some money consultations and human design consultations or readings to help you understand and navigate and experiment with this information that I am presenting you with. And I think that's it. I don't have anything else for you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. And if my voice seems raspy, it's because this is like the 3rd time. 5th, 6th time. Done.
So many people say, oh, I'd love to do this. Yeah, give me a break. Don't love to do it, do it.